Before we start, let me read the following agenda and the rule of webinar. The agenda, we have 2 hours discussions. In the first time, we have already seen about the provincial campuses, and we have also seen the national anthem Indonesia Raya. Now, we continue to welcoming remarks for 10 minutes and delivering speech for 1 hour and have 30 minutes, around 30 minutes question and answer. And we will finish at around 11:30. The rules of webinar as follows. First, participant must mute the microphone during speakers delivering material. The participants are allowed to ask questions in the Zoom chat room and write their names in the following format. Name _ institution, for example, Hani _ ITB Ahmad Dahlan. Third, the moderator has full rights to arrange the webinar and will choose questions to be answered during your question and answer session. During the question and answer session, if participants want to talk or ask questions, participants are expected to activate the raise hand feature first and wait for the moderator to give permission to activating the audio or speaker. Fifth, participants are not allowed to use the share screen feature without the permissions of the host or the moderator. The link of attendance form will be shared in the room chat columns at Q&A sessions. Participants are requested to fill present this form. The name of participant will be written on certificate based on the name written in the present list form. Certificates will be sent to participants on the 7th day after the webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, save the time. Let us hear welcoming remarks that will be delivered by our respectable Dr. Mukhaer Pakkanna, SAMM, the Rector of Institute of Technology and Business Ahmad Dahlan, Jakarta, and Dr. Syarifuddin Israil, M.Pd, Rector of University of Muhammadiyah, Berau. Now, please the Honorable Dr. Mukhaer Pakkanna, SMM, to give welcoming remarks on the first turn. Time is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. The Honorable Rector of Muhammadiyah University Berau, East Kalimantan, Dr. Syarifuddin Israil, M.Pd. The Honorable, the Speaker, Bapak Dr. Arif Budimanta, M.Sc, ITB Ahmad Dahlan, Jakarta, and Bapak Bayu Taufiq Possumah, Ph.D, School of Social and Economic Development, University Malaysia, Terengganu, Malaysia. Associate Professor Hsien, Ph.D, National Central University, Taiwan, and Assistant Professor Dr. Rudklaw, Pampasit, Naresuan University, Thailand, Vice Rector of ITB Ahmad Dahlan, Vice Rector of University Muhammadiyah Berau, Ibu Surti, moderator, Ibu Hani, and then the participants. Peace to all. May Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala always give mercy and blessing to us all. Alhamdulillah, we are still given the opportunity to gather in this webinar in good health today. Ladies and gentlemen, today's international webinar is held in collaboration between ITB Ahmad Dahlan Jakarta and Muhammadiyah University Berau, East Kalimantan, And the international webinar themes are COVID-19 pandemic, impact on business, a comparison of Indonesia, Taiwan, and Thailand. Why do we hold this international webinar today? The reason are, number one, these three countries, Indonesia, Taiwan, and Thailand, have characteristic in handling the COVID-19 pandemic. Indonesia, for example, the country with the fourth largest population in the world. During the COVID-19 pandemic, prepared a budget of 695 trillion rupiah to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic and the National Economy Recovery Program Pemulihan Ekonomi Nasional. The reason number two, the COVID-19 pandemic has disrupted business activities, especially the tourism, accommodation, transportation, automotive, manufacturing, property, warehousing, and other sectors. But however, during the COVID-19 pandemic, the business sector that grow positively were positively, for example, the telecommunication service sector, health, and food, itu yang tumbuh positif. Number three, the international webinar will compare the economic policies of each country in recovering economy and business. And then we also want to compare the economic resilience of business actors in the three countries. Finally, we would like to thank you very much the speakers, Muhammadiyah University Berau, Kalimantan, for cooperating on today's webinar. Thank you, the participants and invitation. I wish you good health and happiness for all. Terima kasih. Thank you very much untuk semua. Fastabikul khairat. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Honorable Dr. Mukhaer Pakkanna, SMM, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, next welcoming speech by Honorable Dr. Syarifuddin Israil, M.Pd, Rector of University of Muhammadiyah, Berau. Honorable Dr. Syarifuddin Israil, M.Pd, time is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wa bihi nasta'in wa la murduni waddin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asrafil anbiya'il mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in, amma ba'd. Good afternoon. With all due respect to the Rector, Institute of Technology and Business Ahmad Dahlan, Dr. Mukhaer Pakkanna, SAMM, the Vice Rector of ITB Ahmad Dahlan, the Vice Rector of University Muhammadiyah Berau, the all head of study programs, the head of International Affairs Office, Universitas Muhammadiyah Berau and ITB Ahmad Dahlan, the honorable speakers in this international webinar, Mr. Bayu Taufiq, Possumah Ph.D. from University Malaysia, Terengganu, Malaysia, and Dr. Insinyur Arif Budimanta, M.Sc. from ITB Ahmad Dahlan, Associate Professor Wei Xingli, Ph.D. from National Central University, Taiwan, and most respectable Assistant Professor Dr. Rudklaw Pampasit, Faculty of Social Sciences, Naresuan University, Thailand, the all academicians of the organized universities in this webinar, ITB Ahmad Dahlan, National Central University, Taiwan, and Naresuan University, Thailand, the Honorable Committee, and the Honorable all participants. Alhamdulillah, gratitude to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Today, we could conduct this international webinar in the healthy condition. It is a great pleasure to join you today to introduce this webinar on COVID-19 pandemic impact on business, a comparison among countries of Taiwan, Thailand, Malaysia, and Indonesia. In 1 year, we have seen how the coronavirus has changed our life and how much suffering it's all of the world. Our health system, health care worker like social service provider have been achieved to their limit, and our economic felt the shock of this authentic crisis for 1 year. I am therefore delighted that so many people and institutions have joined us today for this important discussion in the impact of COVID-19 on business in Malaysia, Thailand, Taiwan, and Indonesia. Your views and insights on this are crucial for us to understand the needs of many people who are related. Ladies and gentlemen, COVID-19 has shown many systemic weaknesses, but the crisis has also shown many strengths. COVID-19 pandemic has at least 3 major impacts on the Indonesian economy. It causes household consumption of purchasing power to drop dramatically. In fact, 60% of consumption support the economy. On estimating the impact of COVID-19, first, we see that public consumption will decline, and we all know that consumption affects the economy by nearly 60%. Second, with unpredictable condition, investment is decreasing. They have stopped it because of COVID-19. Third, around the world, the economy was experiencing a slowdown, causing Indonesian export to several destination countries to stop. Several commodities they experience a decline include oil, coal, and many more. Likewise, key sectors have been affected, particularly travel and tourism, and retail and other service sector. Business operation and supply chain disrupted. Employment and livelihood put at risk, while consumer confidence had declined. Ladies and gentlemen, refer to these cases, Universitas Muhammadiyah Berau, as one of organized universities in this international webinar, be aware to face this COVID-19 impact. And this event is a part of our effort and to counter with pandemic situation in economic and business. Finally, I would like to say thank you to the committee in doing great effort for this virtual event and all our seminar partnership today from Institute of Technology and Business Ahmad Dahlan, Faculty of Social Sciences, Naresuan University, Thailand, and University Malaysia, Terengganu, Malaysia, and National Central University, Taiwan. Ladies and gentlemen, I strongly support this collaboration. Hopefully, it presents beneficial output, and we could create other solid collaboration for more developing our institution. Then we can survive in a pandemic situation and ready for the stability of economy in the future. Hadirin yang berbahagia, selamat mengikuti webinar internasional ini. Semoga Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala dapat memberikan manfaat kepada kita sekalian. That's all I could say. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The Honorable Dr. Syarifuddin. Now it's time for us to listen to the speech from our speakers. For the first turn is Honorable Dr. Insinyur Arif Budimanta, M.Pd, the lecturer of postgraduate program of ITB Ahmad Dahlan, Indonesia. The topic will be delivered with the impact of COVID-19 on business in Indonesia. The discussions will be conducted by the moderator, Ms. Surti Milarisa, M.Pd. She is the head of International Affairs Office of University of Muhammadiyah, Berau. Honorable Dr. Insinyur Arif Budimanta, M.Sc. And Ms. Surti, please, time is yours.
Thank you, Ibu Hani Mulyati MCom, the Directors of International Relations Office, ITB Ahmad Dahlan. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon from Berau, East Kalimantan, Indonesia. I hope you are doing well amid changes and challenges during this pandemic. My name is Surti Milarisa. I'm from Universitas Muhammadiyah Berau, East Kalimantan, Indonesia. It is a pleasure to welcome you today to the international web seminar, COVID-19 Pandemic Impact on Business, a comparison among countries of Malaysia, Taiwan, Thailand, and Indonesia. This program is organized to you by the Faculty of Economy and Business ITB Ahmad Dahlan, Indonesia, Universitas Muhammadiyah Berau, East Kalimantan, Indonesia, Faculty and Social Sciences Naresuan University, Thailand, and National Central University, Taiwan. Before we start these programs, I would like to thank you for joining us on Zoom. You can also see and access this international webinar from ITB Ahmad Dahlan YouTube channel. And for free to interact with the panelists today, please type your questions into Zoom inquiry box and then type your names, where you're from, and to whom the questions is for. Ladies and gentlemen, to give the information about the impact of COVID-19 on business in Indonesia, I would like to welcome Bapak Dr. Insinyur Arif Budimanta, Master of Science from ITB Ahmad Dahlan, who is already online now. Bapak Dr. Arif is an active as a lecturer of ITB Ahmad Dahlan postgraduate programs. He completed his doctoral degree at the University of Indonesia. Then he continued his studies in finance at the University of Chicago, and he attended the senior executive programs at the Harvard Business Schools, or HBS. And at the end of 2019, he was appointed by Mr. President of Republic Indonesia, Insinyur Joko Widodo, as his special staff in charge of economic affairs. And he is also as the one of the commissioners of Mandiri Banks. Well, Bapak Dr. Arif, good afternoon. I have already offered the platform to you, and the screen is yours now.
Thank you. Terima kasih, Profesor Surti, the Honorable all the speaker who attend this seminar, Professor Rudklaw Pampasit from Naresuan University, Thailand, Professor Hsien Lee from National Central University, Taiwan, Professor Bayu Taufiq Possumah from University Malaysia, Terengganu, Pak Rector, Institut Teknologi Bisnis Ahmad Dahlan, Profesor Mukhaer Pakkanna, Pak Rector Universitas Muhammadiyah Berau, Profesor Dr. Syarifuddin Israil. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang, good afternoon, and all the participants. We hope you enjoy this seminar and stay in the good health. The COVID-19 pandemic is affecting 219 countries and territories around the world by now. The organizer, can you share my presentation in the screen maybe? Bisa di-share presentasi kami atau saya sendiri yang share, bisa?
Bapak, could you share by yourself please, because you have already as a co-host now?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You can see my presentation, yeah?
Yes, it's very clear.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. The COVID-19 pandemic is affecting 219 countries and territories around the world by now. The pandemic has spread with alarming speeds, infecting millions of people and bringing economic activity to near standstill as countries impose tight restriction on movement to halt the spread of the virus. Due to the pandemic, the global economic experience worldwide slowed down, and it caused a global supply-demand contraction. Most countries worldwide are expected to face recession due to COVID-19. Adaptive strategies were developed for all aspects of the economy. We need an adaptive strategies policies to save and restore economic life. Because the risk of COVID-19 threatens economic activity in terms of production, supply side, distribution, or demand side. In Indonesia, the government through the National Disaster Management Agency or Badan Nasional Penanggulangan Bencana (BNPB) uses management metrics of economic benefit and health risks. The economy may be ready to reopen for a new normal as long as it has a low level of health risk but high economic benefit. The key point is low level of health risk and high economic benefit. The scoring the economic benefit for every sector of the economy view from 6 indicators. Through 6 indicators, one, contribution to GDP, contribution to employment, contribution to poverty alleviation, credit proportion, household consumption as percentage of GDP, intersector linkages. For health factor, scoring an inherent risk of exposure to COVID-19 for every sector of the economy through transmission risk and rate. Referring the National Agency for Disaster Management, BNPB, since June, 9 economic sector to reopen. Yeah, since June 2020, 9 economic sector to reopen. That is agriculture, forestry, fisheries, industrial activity, constructions, logistics, cargo services, mining, oil and gas, industrial activities such as food and beverage industry, health industry, and etc. During the crisis, the demand side was the most affected. Expansive fiscal policy is an absolute necessity in order to do so. In 2020, the government of Indonesia set budget deficit of 6.3% from GDP amid plunging to revenue and widening state budget deficit. As much as $49.6 million is allocated for national economic program, and $24.5 million for the 2021. By the end of June 2020, the government released the National Economic Recovery Program or Program Pemulihan Ekonomi Nasional (PEN). PEN is designed to reduce the economic impact of COVID-19 with the objective of protecting, maintaining, and increasing the capabilities of enterprises and individuals to continue their business during pandemics. The program are provided on the demand side or supply side. Yeah, the supply side's goal is protecting, maintaining, and increasing the capabilities on the supply side, such as a program you can see: working capital program, cash for work, digital program. In the demand side, the goal are protecting, maintaining, and increasing the capabilities on the demand side. Such a program are social assistance program, cash for work, internet and electricity subsidies. All the program in the demand side and the supply sides will the hope that the economy will be recover and active again. End of the goal, end of the goal from the Program Pemulihan Ekonomi or the National Economic Recovery Program are the to reduction up to elimination of poverty and inequality. Prepare the economy to boost economic growth. Massive job creation with the target to eliminate unemployment. Protect the national ecosystem for global impact contribution. In a budget 2021, fiscal stimulus, the national economic program will be continue. It consists of program, business incentive, corporate financing, micro and small medium enterprises, improving healthcare, social protection, and another program. And another policies, we are strengthening our healthcare system. Yeah, the policies as accelerating health recovery for COVID-19, strengthening early childhood program, strengthening the synergy and coordination between central and regional governments, national health insurance reform, health security preparedness. Another policy is a stimulus for small business. In Indonesia, micro, small and medium enterprises contributes 61% to GDP, account for 99.9% of all business, employs over 97% of the workers. It is why the important for government to help and give a stimulus for micro and small and medium enterprise. Under the PAN, the government also focuses on helping micro, small, and medium enterprises through the following. The first, credit relaxation and interest subsidies for enterprises that take micro and small loans through micro credit program, ultra micro credit, and other micro credit and financing through formal financial services. Working capital in the form of grant for poor and vulnerable micro enterprises. The third is micro working capital. The fourth is placement of fund program. All countries worldwide are to cooperate to solve the pandemic and recover social and economic welfare globally. A strategic success evaluation, comparison measurement of the implementation of pandemic mitigating strategies and the economical impact can be achieved by looking at timeline over the past year. Since the severe supply-demand contraction as experienced in the March to April 2020 period, it is evident that the global economy is now gradually starting to rebound. The result, economic indicators show encouraging signs of recovery, same like Indonesia. We can see from the indicators economic growth and business recovery. The Indonesia economic in quarter third of the 2020 contracted by 3.49% year on year. However, compared to quarter second of 2020, the economy rebound by 5%. This positive trend indicates that the economy has begun to recover from COVID-19 pressures. The latest editions of the business survey performed by Central Bank of Indonesia revealed an improvement in business activity in the fourth quarter. And another indicators about the financial system stability. Credit growth in October 2020 slowed down. However, the risk of credit, net performing loan ratio was still quite low. Banking liquidity is still an adequate level. The position of foreign exchange reserve in December 2020 remain high, equivalent 9.8 month of import and payment of government external debt. Inflation is quite under control. And investment and performance amid the economics, ongoing pandemic and the economic recession, Indonesia is still resilient and hopeful to keep accelerating the investment, both domestically and internationally. It has been reported that there is a positive growth. There is positive growth in terms of direct investment, which become a green light for the economy to move forward. latest manufacturing purchasing manager index or PMI survey data indicated a renewal improvement in Indonesia manufacturing condition during November. Driven by a record rise in production, Indonesia manufacturing PMI rose nearly 1 point from 50.6 in November to 51.3 in December. It is indicate the expansive activity, indicating an improvement in the health of the sector. The December 2020, the Central Bank of Indonesia consumer survey indicate that consumer confidence in economic confidence is improving, higher than before. Indonesia balance of payment record surplus in third quarter 2020, a surplus of $2 billion US dollar. The current account recorded a surplus again after the last surplus in third quarter 2011. The effect of the strengthening of the surging trade performance in good services. In another effect, we can show the fintech expansion is progressing. The use of e-money has increased along with a growing number of e-money owners in Indonesia. Nearly 410 million people with transaction reaches mostly 19 trillion in October 2020. Through its policy mix, fiscal, monetary, and real sector, the government is focusing to strengthen the synergy cooperation with all authorities to ensure the various policy taken are effective in stimulating the economic recovery and the quality of life for the population. It is hoped that the availability of vaccine will increase public and business confidence in accelerating economic recovery. Currently, we are preparing Indonesia vaccination program as the instrument we can use to protect all of us. Most important, the vaccine is the instrument to protect our families, our neighbors, all Indonesia and humanity. The immunization program aims to inoculate 181.5 million people as one of the biggest COVID-19 vaccination drive worldwide. The pandemic has tough as one thing that our country need to be ready for whatever may be coming, and we need to be able to respond with a superior level of energy and speed. Response we have not needed for generation. The pandemic may also be a good lesson for everybody to bring the world to a better environmental and economic well-being, and that the pandemic will become an opportunity for all of us to decrease inequality, which has been increasing over the past few decades. What we need is to promote cooperation, hold hands, forget exploitative competition, so no one gets left behind. That's the last my presentation. Thank you for the opportunity, Ibu Profesor Surti. Once again, thanks. Selamat sore, good afternoon. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam, Bapak Dr. Insinyur Arif Budimanta, Master of Science. Well, this about the recovery of economy from the COVID-19 pandemic impact and the national recovery economy programs in Indonesia. And there are 9 sectors in Indonesia that are reopened in Indonesia, and they are the positive and indicating of health of further economy in Indonesia in December 2020. And fintech expansion is progressing. The use of money is growing amount 52.5% in Indonesia. Thank you very much for insightful presentation, Bapak Dr. Insinyur Adi Budimanta, Master of Science. Well, ladies and gentlemen, for the next speakers, we have Mr. Bayu Taufiq Possumah, Ph.D. from University Malaysia, Terengganu, Malaysia. He is a senior lecturer at School of Social Economic Development, University Malaysia, Terengganu, Malaysia. He gained his PhD from University Kebangsaan Malaysia in 2013 and as a senior research fellow at Islamic Economic Studies and Thought Center or ISCPC Malaysia. Well, Bapak Bayu Taufiq Possumah, PhD, good afternoon. The platform is yours now, Bapak.
Thank you, moderator. Before I proceed my presentation, please, moderator, share my presentation because I use my laptop. I have sent my presentation to.
Yes, with pleasure, Bapak.
Okay.
Well, could you share the PowerPoint, Bapak?
Could you share my script, share my presentation first? Because I have sent my presentation to communities.
Okay, well, Bapak, waiting for a while, please.
Okay, while waiting out my screen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good afternoon everyone. My honor to respected Rector, Bapak Dr. Mukhaer Pakkanna. I think from your name, Doctor, we come from the same region actually. And my honor also to respect Rector, honorable and all distinguished panel speaker from Taiwan, the Associate Professor Dr. Hsien and also Associate Professor Dr. Rudklaw from Thailand, and also Dr. Budimanta from Indonesia, from M.Pd University, respected scholars, and all faculty.
Well, Bapak Bayu Taufiq Possumah, because of the connections of the internet, do you clear to hear my voice?
Voice. How about my voice? Is it clear, my voice?
Could you see the PowerPoint now?
Yes, I can see the presentation. How about my voice? My voice is clear?
Little bit trouble, Bapak.
Hello?
Well,
Clear. I don't know what is the problem. Hello? Hello? How about now?
Yes, still in the starting. What about this one?
Hello? 1, 2, 3. Test.
Yes, yes. We can hear your voice now, Bapak. Please.
Yes. How about now? You can. Sound is not clear. Hello? Hello?
Yes, Bapak. Yeah.
Hello? Test. You can hear me now?
No, still in unclear. It is still unclear, Bapak. Still on a bandwidth.
Hello?
Still in clear, Bapak. Still not clear. Still not clear. What about maybe just read the presentations? We will hear the voice. No, we are not able to hear, Bapak. We are not able to hear your voice.
Hello?
Bapak Dr. Bayu, now your voice is mute. Your microphone is mute now. Bapak, maybe we can try again. Could you mention the title, for example, for the task, for the connections internets of yours?
Hello, apa itu? Another account. Please
Okay.
approve my
Bapak, what about? Bapak Bayu Taufiq Possumah Ph.D. Maybe we will cancel for the next speakers first for waiting your internet connection stable. Is it okay? Is it okay? Yes.
Okay. Okay, Bapak Bayu, now he's trying to log in with another account. Shall we wait for some time?
Oh, yes, of course. Yes. Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we will waiting for a while for Mr. Bayu Taufiq Possumah to connect another platform. Just a while. A moment, please. Just wait for a moment, please.
Hello.
Yes, Bapak. Yes, we can hear your voice now. Yeah.
You can hear my voice?
Hello, Bapak.
Yes.
Could you hear my voice now?
Hello.
Yes, Bapak, we can hear your voice now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. I try to. sorry. Okay. Hello.
Yeah, Pak Bayu,
You
could
can hear
you
me.
see
You can
the
hear me now.
PowerPoint now? Yes. Yes, it is very clear.
Okay.
It is very clear.
Okay. Once again, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to say thank you to all committee from Institute Technology and Business Ahmad Dahlan and University of Muhammadiyah Berau, School of Management National Central University, and Faculty of Social Science Naresuan University. Me to be one of panel speaker in this great international webinar. And today I would like to discuss about Malaysian SME beyond MCO or Movement Control Order from Malaysia, lesson from the Prihatin Stimulus. Talking about the impact of COVID to economic, business, social, etc. is quite interesting as the speaker mentioned it. Since coronavirus or COVID-19 has started as a viral flu outbreak and now become uniquely unlike crisis in 1998 and 2008 crisis. This pandemic basically is health crisis for the first time, and then become financial crisis. We can see over 2 million people have been infected globally, and over 2 million people have been infected globally, not just in related to health, but also suffering from this tragedy is our social economic. With countries imposing lockdown or movement control order like Malaysia. And of course, the lockdown or MCO, we call it MCO in Malaysia, causing a severe economic impact on the global supply chain, bankruptcy, plummeting stock market, and unemployment. Overall, it is destroying the world's economy. One of the country is Malaysia. Okay, next. The Malaysian economy, we can see in slide number three. Yeah. Please, previous slide, my previous slide. Slide number 3, okay. Overall, COVID-19 effect on Malaysian economy, yeah, we can see here, the Malaysian economy is expected to see a contraction minus 2.0% as it was, and growth of 0.5% as is best in 2020, compared to 4.3% in 2019. Bank Negara Malaysia said the domestic economy will also be affected by the decline and volatile shift in crude oil prices and continued supply disruption in the commodities sector. Bank Negara Malaysia also said that inflation is forecasted to a rate within the range of minus 1.5 to 0.5% in 2020 compared to 0.7%, and mainly reflecting significantly lower by the lower global oil and commodity prices. And several economic worldwide institution shows that Malaysia was one of the country was the strictest in the region, yeah, when Malaysia implementing control measures in the context of nation-wide lockdown or MCO, compared to, for example, South Korea and Vietnam in Asia. Okay, next slide. Okay, the secondary data and information on the socioeconomic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and the semi-lockdown or movement control order, as presented in the media article, rapid assessment and survey and projection by some institution, shows that, for example, from Malaysian Institute Economic Research, they said that real GDP contracted by 6.9%, yeah, relative to baseline, and projected real GDP growth, yeah, year by year, equal to minus 2.9%, and value of real GDP losses relative to projected 2020 baseline is 102 billion ringgit Malaysia. This GDP contraction basically surpassed the decline in real output that Malaysia experienced in the fourth quarter, yeah, in 1998 during the height of the Asian financial crisis. And inside of job losses, 2.4 million out of 16 million employed labor in, if we compare in 2019. Referred to Malaysia Department Statistic in March 2020 was 3.9%, much higher than 3.3% apparent unemployment in 2019. The rate in April 2020 about around 5.0% and remain high at 4.7% in July 2020. And then job losses, we see here unskilled labor, yeah, 1.6 million, and skilled labor about around 7 and 8 150,000 losses. Instead of household income losses, Malaysia lose household income around 95 billion ringgit Malaysia, relative to projected baseline in 2020. And private consumption fell by 11%. This is impacted by the household income losses. And the overall consumer price fell by 4.4%. This overall CPI drop driven by decrease in the index for transportation, 20.8%, housing, water, electricity, gas, and other fuels, minus 2.6%, and etc. Okay, next. Next slide, please. Okay. Malaysia recorded GDP of 4.3% in first quarter in 2020, and GDP contracted by 17.1% the second quarter of 2020, mainly due to the movement control order or semi-lockdown implemented during the quarter to stem the spread of COVID-19. And the contraction for the quarter was the lowest growth recorded by the nation since the Asian financial crisis, when GDP fell around 11.2% in fourth quarter in 98. Malaysian economy as the Southeast Asia's the third largest, and had expanded at 4.4% clip in the third quarter last year, and the first 3 months of 2020 managed around 0.7% growth. But the government imposed a strict nationwide lockdown in mid-March, which lasted for a month, and half before most sectors were allowed to reopen. Prime Minister Tun Muhammadiyah Yassin said early this year that measures cost the country 63 up to until May. Until May. Okay, next. Next slide. Okay. Record growth during the quarter, except for the agriculture sector. Except for the agriculture sector, which is grew around 7.2%. The services sector declined 70.4%, while we saw manufacturing drop 70.9%. If we're looking at to GDP, if we look at GDP contraction by the construction sector recorded the biggest decline at around 44.5%, followed by mining and quarrying minus 20%. Inside of domestic demand declined 18.7% during the quarter. Private consumption and investment declined by 18 and 26.4% respectively. While for the public sector, public sector consumption grew around 2.3%. Although investment fell around 38.7%. Okay, next slide. The challenges facing by business firm during MCO. Employee payout dominates the issue or challenges faced by the companies or business firm by around 76.6%. and this was followed by 65.5% with lack of customer during the lockdown period. 88.8% of private limited company face also the challenges in employee payout. And on the other hand, the proprietorship state that the main challenge was the lack of customer, because the lack of customer around 70.7%, followed by employees payout. Okay, next slide. I try to make it fast. Please, next slide. Okay, the impact of COVID outbreak on Malaysian SMEs, or small, medium, and enterprise. Together, we knew that a change in the economic sector, not only for large industry, the COVID-19 virus pandemic also made countries agitated as a result of the spread of the virus. Generally, the real business impact caused by COVID-19 on the SME sector in Malaysia, like other countries, such as decrease in business activities by the implementation of social distancing and other health personal standard to avoid the wider spread of the COVID virus, more or less caused the effect of reducing business activities in our community. Difficult to find raw materials also is the impact of COVID outbreak to Malaysian SMEs, because when the SME want to sell, or want to produce the goods, they're difficult to find the raw materials, and this is also caused by the social distancing policy.
I'm so sorry, Dr. Bayu. Could we stop the share first to avoid the messy judge on the screen? Please wait a minute.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. Okay. Yes, it's clear now.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. Please continue. Yeah.
Okay. Next slide.
Next slide. Well.
Okay. You can see here in this slide. No yet. Okay.
This one?
No. Okay. In this slide, you can see document related to how to support SMEs. How to support SMEs. Next.
Bayu, is it the okay, next. This one, is it correct? Per point.
Next.
Well, what about this one?
Okay. Malaysia economic policy response to the coronavirus pandemic comprised two separate stages. Step one, measures implemented when quarantine or partial lockdown are imposed to safeguard the income and liquidity of affected businesses, household, and individual. And stage two, measures comprised and implemented as healthy fiscal stimulus component and implemented as soon as the outbreak saw sign of subsiding and movement control are lifted. Or in another words, we can say the policy implemented in three big areas. The first is empowering the people, and the second is propelling businesses, and the third is stimulating the economy. Okay, next slide. In view of the precedented outbreak of COVID-19 and its impact on the Malaysian economy, the Prime Minister of Malaysia announced the details of the Prihatin Rakyat economic stimulus. Malaysian government call it Prihatin Rakyat economic stimulus package, or Prihatin package, with a focus on preserving the welfare of Malaysian citizens, supporting businesses, and strengthening the economy. The Prihatin package is an extension of the economic stimulus package that announced in February, announced by Prime Minister of Malaysia in that era, Tun Dr. Mahathir, and additional measure for the economic stimulus package announced by the new Prime Minister of Malaysia on March. In aggregate, the Prihatin package announced by the government of Malaysia is valued at 250 billion ringgit Malaysia, compared to the economic stimulus package for the global financial crisis around 2007 and 2008, value around 67 billion ringgit. And this package represents approximately 18% of Malaysia's gross domestic product in 2019, and will implement it through the unit for the implementation or coordination of national agencies on the economic stimulus package. Okay, next slide. Yes. Okay. In this slide, we can see the government policy to support the SMEs. This is actually a recommendation by International Labour Organization. Government strategy, a recommendation by ILO. During the pandemic or MCO phases, the focus should be on support many jobs as possible, and to provide the basis for smoother recovery by preventing permanent business closures. For example, cash assistance and cost alleviation measures. This component, this is the essential component to respond package. But need appropriately designed and delivered. Speed is essential. Bureaucracy delays should be addressed, and rapid payment channels, including digital service, should be facilitated. Because getting cash to enterprises is quickly pay a bill and wages and repay the loan is essential. And the second support to enterprises to transform production of goods and services to help respond to the pandemic. And the third is support to adapt new market circumstances, including a virtual market. This could be particularly important for micro and small enterprises. Some of the measures that have been identified included facilitating access to ICT tools and platforms that enterprises can use to source locally and communication with customers. Providing web-based training, digital marketing, and service delivery to increase online capacity. And supporting both vendors and customers to use digital channel for paying wages and to buy goods. And the fourth is how to introduce a legislation to provide enterprises temporary relief from legal action that arising from the inability to perform obligation in specific contract. The disruption of business operation may mean the enterprises may not be able to meet the contractual obligation, or maybe unable to fulfill business transaction. Singapore, for example, has introduced the COVID-19 Act 2020 to provide protection for SMEs from court action or receivables for a period of 6 months. They are temporarily, the company make an application which will be assessed, and both parties also have to consider the viability, and they will fulfill the relevant contractual obligation after the period. Okay, next slide. The last slide is recommendation for SMEs. The recommendation for SMEs to meet challenges in COVID era. The first is the SME need to review their business. SME need to reassess if the business models are suitable for the new norm. They must resist expectation of the market and be more sensitive to the changes in habit. SME need to explore new market, for example, new customer segment, introduce new product. Redesign package which is marketplace, and not forget to determine what consumers are willing to spend. They need to predict what may emerge from the new normal. Secondly, adoption of new technology. Adoption to new technologies to enhance operational organization. Basically, pushing to digitalize and automate in Malaysia has been started before the pandemic. Before the pandemic, through various incentive for firms to embrace technology, technological investment, and industrial revolution 4.0. During COVID-19, business are likely to be more incentivized to embrace technology to remain resilient. For example, non-food shopping, we can see increase by 53%. Online grocery shopping increased by 144%, and online food delivery by 61%. On the first day of MCO, on the first day of MCO or semi lockdown in Malaysia, food delivery platform like GrabFood and Food Panda, increase around 30%. 30%. And Malaysia Digital Economy Corporation has predicted that increase or grow for e-commerce in 2020 or 2021 will increase around 20%. 20%. So the SME need to realize that benefit of technology adoption for their business will overcome cost and the risks of change, and proactively develop digital strategy to bring transformative change to their business and serve the needs of their customer. To improve risk management, SME need to improve the risk management. SME should build cash reserve when the opportunity present. SME need to protect their business during time difficulties. They should refrain from over investing through the expansion and purchase of major assets, such as a property and the others. Yeah? And the customer base should be diversified. Instead of depending on a single group of customers, SME trading should in hedging for the purpose of risk management. And the last, SME need to keep informed. SME must be up to date with government announcement, up to date with the transformation of market from time to time, especially once SME facing the new normal, the new normal in COVID era. So the information for the SMEs is really important. It's really important to update all the issues in COVID-19. I think that's all my presentation. Thank you for your all attention, and sorry for the problem presentation. I hope can be useful for all of us, theoretically and practically, especially in this our hardest time. As the saying goes, there are opportunities in every crisis. We must act and adapt quickly so that we are better able to seize the opportunities when crisis is over. I close my presentation. Hadanallahu wa iyyakum. I am back to moderator. Assalamualaikum and have a good day.
Waalaikumsalam, Bapak Bayu Taufiq Possumah, Ph.D. Thank you very much for the insightful presentations about COVID-19 impacts on business in Malaysia, especially for small to medium-sized entrepreneurs in Malaysia. Well, for the next speakers, we have Associate Professor Hsien Lee, Ph.D. from National Central University, Taiwan. He gained his Ph.D. in finance from Virginia Tech, United States America. As an active researcher, his research expertise on corporate finance, mergers and acquisitions, dividends policy, and his teaching expertise on corporate finance, financial institutions and market, and financial statement analysis. Well, Associate Professor Hsien Lee, Ph.D., good afternoon. The screen is yours now.
Thanks for having me. Okay, thank you for having me. Can you hear me, right?
Yes, your voice is clear.
Okay,
Could you share your PowerPoint now?
Okay, thanks for having me today, and thanks the ITB Ahmad, Dahlan, and University Muhammadiyah, Berau, and Naresuan University to host this great webinar. With no further ado, let me just share my screen here for my presentation.
Okay.
Here we go. Let's just use the screen. So today's presentation is mainly talk about the measures in response to COVID-19. Okay, let me just wait a minute. Stop mine. So is this better right now? Somehow cannot hear myself. Why? Can you guys hear me right now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me just continue. Somehow I just cannot hear myself. So.
Oh.
Yes. Yes, the voice is very clear.
Okay.
Yeah.
So today, okay, the content will have three parts. I'll start with the talking about the successful epidemic preventions in Taiwan, and then we'll talk about economic impacts. The last part just concluded with the outlook into the future. So part one is we'll talk about the epidemic preventions measures in Taiwan. So Taiwan is being mostly recognized as a successful story in the COVID-19 crisis. We have a long period of time, have 0 local cases. And the factors for this successful prevention the major reasons, obviously, the SARS experience. So this SARS experience leads to regulatory review and also organizational adjustment, which is very helpful in the prevention. And more importantly, the memories of a SARS are actually very strong in the people's minds. So the public awareness of such a crisis is huge. And also I'll talk about some medical backgrounds. We are luckily we have can put our resource on time to have mass measures and advanced medical equipment available to us. And lastly, I'll talk about the border control measures, which including deferred entries as well as a home quarantine. So the SARS experience, because SARS is 2003, so that actually caused a revision of the infectious disease prevention control law. So, and also for the H1N1 bird flu pandemic. So this gives the power, so we kind of revise the law and give the power of a Central Epidemic Command Center, CECC, lots of power. So they can have a centralized the reaction of the government. We also set up a national health command centers to build a complete epidemics prevention system. And the vivid memory of a SARS are deep rooted in the general public. So it's sometimes kind of making the general public be even more alerted than the government. So in the early days, like perhaps in February, because the people in Taiwan were wearing masks proactively and it kind of creating a shortage in the masks. So in February, CECC even have to campaign for not wearing a mask in public transit for a very short period of time. So this shows that the people's reactions are being even more proactively than the government's trying to do. And most of schools adopt the temperature testing stations following the SARS experience. And also for the schools and some of the large companies often move ahead of the governmental mandate. So then we have talked about the mass measures. We have like, for the very beginning of the crisis, we kind of preserving our local max of reserve. And you can see these 3 steps. And then we have this rationing plans. And then it's not until the rationing plan works, it's until April, we announce that you should wear a mask when you're trying in public transportation. And we do have a national health insurance assistance well established. This gives us a shorter outpatient waiting times and cheaper outpatient medical expenses. It covers a wide range applicable from large hospital to small regional clinics. So this actually gives the CECC an easier way to control the potential patients. Also, in the public in Taiwan are very aware, they are very willing to go to the doctor if they have some small diseases. So it's compared to Japan, the experience that, if you have diseases, you will hide it. In Taiwan, no, we have cheap medical health. We have a cheap health insurance program. So people in Taiwan don't, they will go to hospital if they want. And in terms of advanced medical equipment, if you look in the negative pressure isolated ward, which is necessary for the respiratory diseases, and you can see the relative speaking, we have enough number. It's kind of enough. Well, if you compare to Japan, relatively, we have more wards by population. It's kind of enough control for the confirmed cases, assuming you have a successful border control. And then we talk about border control. So in the very beginning of the pandemic, or Taiwan, because of its public public situation in China, we are kind of among the first countries to block the incoming from China, and that kind of helps for the first wave of the pandemic. And later, when the pandemic going throughout globally, when we put together the quarantine at home for 14 days for all nationality. So all of these border control measures are put it together pretty quickly. And by March 24th, passengers are completely prohibited from boarding and transiting Taiwan. So this is perhaps the major reason we have no local cases for a long while. You know, we have a no local case for 253 days since April 13, 2020. So with that as a background, now let's talk about economic impacts. So economic impact from COVID-19 is relatively mild in Taiwan. So if you look at the real GDP, in the impact actually is almost non-discernible. You do have some kind of negative shock on private consumptions, but the magnitude is also not that high. For the export, you do have the second quarter of 2020, you have a minus 3.5% of reduction, but then you have growing back to 2020 Q3. The reason of this mild economic impact is obviously from the successful epidemic preventions. So you have this so-called retaliatory consumptions is because people after the pandemic become kind of the situation becomes settled down, people go out and keep consume like hell. Well, it's actually I have some personal experience for this, right? So it's that people goes to restaurants, they just rush to restaurants are all full. Just after the situation become relatively safe. Also, domestic travel are going up because of foreign travel limits. And people are feeling safe to go to restaurant and do some regular consumption. So that is what successful preventions bring to us. But compared to the other countries, I think the major reason of the mild economic impact is perhaps coming from industrial structure, which I'll talk about later. And I'll also talk about stimulus policies for a while. So if you look at industry structure by exporting goods, you can see that the export goods are concentrated in electronic components, and also for information communication, also audiovisual products. They accounts for more than half of our exports. And you can see that the tourism only accounts less than 5% of GDP in Taiwan. So relatively speaking, you know, our major products are not really affected by the pandemic. And the tourism, which is the most hardly hit sectors among the other countries, are less important in Taiwan. And so in Taiwan, the high-tech industry or semiconductor is a major part of our economics. The expected gross output in 2020 actually increased like 20%, more than the global average. It is because the demand of a computing power from all the major chip designers like Apple, Intel, NVIDIA, and AMDs increased a lot. So that drives out the demand of silicon wafer. So basically TSMC is a Taiwan semiconductor manufacturing company, which accounts for the Taiwan stock exchange market cap for 22%, even now grows to 30% of market cap. So this drives, so if you look at the macroeconomic level data, the Taiwan economics is perhaps even not hurt by the COVID-19, is perhaps even better during this time. And the other major part of our high-tech industry output is electronic equipment. They also benefit from the stay-at-home economics. So the larger demands of PC, notebook, other stay-at-home, work-from-home equipments that we actually benefit from them a lot. You also have device replacement wave from the cell phone triggered by 5G. We also have some kind of benefit from them. And lastly, perhaps it's pretty lucky for us because not only Taiwan is relatively successful in controlling disease, you can also see that the other Asia countries are relatively successful in controlling disease. So the overall supply chain for electronic equipment only suffers what we will say for now, right? For now, when you look back, it's a relatively short interruption of a supply chain. So lots of factories in China and also as well as in Vietnam or some other Asia countries are relatively uninterrupted. So this actually drives the economics in Taiwan's even, drives up the Taiwan's economics. So we also have stimulus policies. So in the macroeconomics, we unlike a lot of other countries, we have very easy monetary policies. We also have a lot of stimulus vouchers trying to boost up the private consumptions. So for that, we have many different vouchers. We have cash vouchers, directly give you cash. You can use that cash. Also, the targeted vouchers, which is targeted to specific consumptions, like art consumptions, agriculture consumptions, as well as travel consumptions. We also provide a lot of subsidies like employment compensations, epidemic prevention subsidies, as well as relief revitalization loans and interest subsidies. So all of this keep the private consumption strong. You can see the evidence from the e-commerce. The e-commerce components, just like the previous presenters showing in their home countries, we all observe the e-commerce boost in Taiwan as well. And also some other pandemic-related business also have enjoyed the growth in Taiwan. So the last part, well, so I'll just make this very quick to, let's just talk about the outlook to the future. So to be honest, if you ask my personal opinion, this is not really economic crisis. This is a health crisis. If you solve the health crisis, the economic crisis will be over. So this pandemic has proven that without proper border control, no country can contain a pandemic well, right? No matter how advanced your medical is, if you have no proper border controls, the number of cases will simply be overwhelming to any countries in the world. Even with the proper border controls, public cooperations is key to the success. You can see a lot of bad examples, right? Those advanced countries, even for US, it's a very bad examples in pandemic controls. So in Taiwan, we do expect that we'll maintain our very tight border control, and the public is still pretty alert. And well, I would say I won't say it's fortunately, but unfortunately, we recently have some cases, the local cases, being discovered in January 2021. But on the bright side, you can look at that the awareness of public will be revitalized. Because in Taiwan, for a very long time, people being kind of like, we're a successful story, so people kind of let it back a little. But now all of these cases will arise the public awareness again, and which I personally believe, very optimistically, this will be bringing back to our public awareness and bring it to successful prevention. And we may not be a front runner of vaccine programs. This is a curse of being successful in epidemic prevention. And to be honest, I'm not really worried about that. Because as long as the border control is there, it's fine. And we also have an industrial structure which helps to further endure the negative economic impact. The need of computing power is not going to fade soon. So overall, the semiconductor industry semiconductor industry boost, as well as all those high-tech industry boosts, should prevail for a while, in which it will carry the Taiwan overall Taiwan's economics for a while. Despite that, the small and medium-sized economics enterprise will suffer. And even in a dire situation, I really believe Taiwan people are ready for the extreme measures like shutting down. Well, I really believe so, because I think in Taiwan, people are more alert than the government. So all of this is that we believe that Taiwan can endure this crisis, even if the crisis will be in longer for for perhaps the next half of the year, but I think we'll be ready. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Well, Associate Professor Hsien, thank you very much for the insightful information about the COVID-19 in Taiwan. But actually for the Taiwan, the impact of COVID-19 is relatively mild in Taiwan. And ladies and gentlemen, for the next speakers, we still have one speaker. Please welcome Assistant Professor Dr. Rudklaw Pampasit. She is the lecturer and also the head of Faculty of Social Sciences, Naresuan University, Thailand, and she gained her Ph.D. in Social Development from Naresuan University, Thailand, and her current research, tourism behaviors and economic social benefits for tourism-related communities, was presented at Waseda University, Japan in 2019. Well, Asst. Rudklaw, good afternoon. Happy to see you here. The platform is yours now.
It's still mute, speaker.
Asst. Rudklaw?
The speaker is still mute, Miss Surti.
Asst. Rudklaw, your speaker is still mute. Your microphone is still mute. Did you unmute your speakers?
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay.
we could hear you now.
Okay. And thank you very much for Adasuti, and good afternoon, lecturer, speaker, student, and everyone.
Good afternoon, Achan.
Greetings and congratulations with Universitas Muhammadiyah Berau, formerly from City Muhammadiyah Tanjung Redep, and best wishes for continued success and distinguished educational achievement. And congratulations with Dr. Syarifuddin, Israil, first rector of the Universitas Muhammadiyah Berau. And thank you very much for your invitation to join first international webinar. And this is a collaborate between another institute like Institute of Technology and Business, Damas, Harris, and at Taiwan. And good afternoon, everyone, too. Today is, I hope, Thailand experience about COVID economic impact will be benefit for the audience, especially the student, because I know today is a target group is a student. And I try to select important of information for the student learned. And another one is interest at a Thai experience about COVID-19 pandemic. So sorry, I will show this my PowerPoint. Just minute. And I think I will pause my profile. The copy profile.
Well, the PowerPoint is clear now. Yeah.
Okay. For Thailand situations, currently Thailand facing as a new outbreaks. First outbreaks around January 2020 from Chinese tourists. It's not many cases for international because Thai government has good health system, and we have experience for organize and management about epidemics. If you can remember about SARS and H5N1, and Thailand is a country for tourism, so we must to have health system for support with the tourism, and was ranked by organization in ASEAN. Thailand has a very well and good standard for health system. For when we facing about pandemics, we try to organize about infections and spread in my country. If for the case study from international tourism when China facing the pandemic, where they go inside at my country, we try to screen and use a strictly of measure for international tourism at my country. However, Thailand cannot avoid to facing with pandemic. For the domestic case from Thailand, first case at Lumpini Boxing Stadium in March 2020. That is a super spreader in Thailand. And after that, we can control around 3 months and 0 domestic case in May. If you see the graphs, we can control about the spreading in my country around 7 months. But now we're facing new outbreaks again. This is a impact for my this is a situation in my country. It has more impact for economics now. For Thai situation in the first outbreak in 2020, Thailand has become one of the first country to complete an assessment of how the health system responded to COVID-19. And Thai realized the importance of preventive measures, including wearing of masks, regular hand washing, social distancing, lockdown, and quarantines. If you see the picture, you will know that Thailand was ranked by GCI. GCI is a global COVID index. It's developed by was developed by P.Pd Associates. For the picture, you will see Thai was ranked number 1 or number 2, depend on that time period. For first outbreak, it's as well for me, as well for Thailand for organize and manage and prevention about the COVID at my country. We must to exchange with the economics, incomes, and everything with my populations. For the new outbreaks in Thailand, one caused by economic driving of fishing industry that imports workers from Myanmar who immigrated, legal and illegal, and infections from Thai workers who sneak back from Myanmar border while infected with the COVID-19. Spread of COVID-19 infections among clamber within the illegal place for the new outbreak in Thai. But now is the picture is a dashboard for GCI for the second time Thailand. This is an update at 9 January. January. If you see Thailand have 96 rank in the world. If you want to know Indonesia or Malaysia or Taiwan, what the rank, you can go at the GCI index and check real time. For the causes caused by new outbreak in Thai, if you see the cause of the new outbreak from gray area, what is mean gray area? Because I'm social development, it means illegal such as sneak back from border, clamber in the illegal place. It has to prevent and control for this group in Thai. That means that is a situation for new outbreaks in Thai, but now we try to control again and prevent again for new outbreaks, and has a more effect with the economics and double suffer for Thailand now. For COVID-19 economic impact, the slowdown of trading, partner economies, and supply chain disruption in many countries, it's the same and similar in our country about the economic impact. I think everyone knows this situation and crisis because we have a similar feeling, right? And global shock at the same time. The way of life changed by lockdown. No freedom, right? Firstly, it's very excited, but now if you must to lock down, everyone say, no, we don't want to lock down, right? And revenues and purchasing power sharply fall. Twin supply demand shocks, damage value of economy in 2020 to 2021 is its projections and prediction is more than $9 trillion, and if compared bigger than the economy of Japan and Germany together. I hope in this year the vaccine is effective and can control if the pandemic still long term. I think our world our economic in the world will very suffer and maybe is a L shape. If you understand about the model of the economic have of our 5 model, V shape, L shape, U shape, something like that. I hope we can help increasing of our economy in the world. Okay. And for this data, I would like to show the GDP in Thailand. Thailand GDP suffer its lowest growth rate. Before has pandemic, Thailand has increasing of GDP. If you see the trends, economic growth rate, and however, we are projections 2021 Thailand can driving the economic under COVID-19 pandemics. In 2020, you will see contractions of economic in Thailand, and we hope for this year it will better. And this is GDP economic growth in Thailand. Economic impact. What happened during first outbreak until now? Worker global demand affecting exports and value chains. No international tourist arrivals since March 2022. Tourism is worth almost 15% of Thailand GDP. This is a very big sharing market in Thailand. And decrease in sale of durable, which has seen a sharp decrease of nearly 12% in the first quarter of 2020. This is not update, but now I think it maybe is more than 12%. Decrease in private consumption with retail and recreation being hardest hit. For the picture, you will see Thailand no international tourism April 2020 until now. We just give some international tourism come in go inside at Thailand at 2 months ago. But for international tourism, it means must to stay long stay in Thai and has business in Thai. They can give the permission for go income. But if general international tourism cannot go inside at my country now. For tourism situation pre-COVID-19, because it's an important sector and more income for this sector in Thai, I try to emphasize and focus for this sector today. Tourism is one of the most important sector driving Thailand economy. which can generate high income for Thailand. The number of international tourism to Thailand in 2019 was 39.8 million people. The number of in 2019, Thailand received approximately Thai baht 2.20 billion in revenue from international tourists. And Thailand economy is highly dependent on Chinese tourism with nearly 11 million Chinese tourists coming to Thailand in 2019. The number of Chinese visitors is down 60% to 1.25 million. So you will see for the GDP of tourism sector more than half from China. Tourism sector impact Thailand's travel and tourism is the #1 income producing sector of 22% of GDP and has been affected negatively by COVID-19. The most affected sector are airlines, hotel networks, tourism company, business sector such as mines, leasing, incentive, travel, conventions, exhibition, car rentals companies, cruise line, tourist guide, museum, shopping center, retail shop, and restaurant. If you see the picture, sorry, is a Thai ringgit. According to momentum, you will see top 5 of the country was effect from COVID with this tourism sector. Thai is #1. 22% of GDP, and second is the Philippines, Mexico, Spain, and Italy. And for introduction, I give information about macroeconomics, and I try to link with the case study at Thailand. If you ever come Pattaya and ever come at Thailand, Pattaya is a destination and have a famous tourism in Thailand. And if you never come post-COVID, I hope Thailand can welcome you, come here. At Pattaya has a beautiful beach and many shopping and many facility of tourists. For this picture, it can show very well what happened for tourism in Thai. Before, have many and crowding international tourism, almost from China and Europe. But now, nobody there, very quiet. If you see the Billy, do you know Billy? Billy is actor in the horror movie. The name of movie very famous is Dead Silence, and it's a joking in abroad. I think it can show very well for Thai situation now. Nobody there at here. And on the bridge too. Before COVID, pre-COVID, has many international tourism at Pattaya. For domestic, they don't like to go at here because many international tourism and quite expensive. At city, this city needs support for international. Sometimes has a domestic visits here. For Thai, we have another selection, another place for go because it's quite cheaper than at Pattaya. But now, when we facing the crisis, no international tourism for Thai or domestic in tourism. Thai, the government tried to encourage the but they paranoid about the crisis. So, but now it's very quiet and nobody there here too. And this is the overview of on the beach at Pattaya. Usually Pattaya, we have a second name is Never Sleep City. It means like a 7-Eleven in Thai, 20 hours for activity at this city. When we facing the pandemic, and spreading in Thailand. Nobody there to on the bridge. And this is at the walking street. When you visit at Pattaya, you would like to buy some souvenir or tasting or food street, anything else, you come at the walk street. Many and crowding here, many international tourists and crowding. But now it's quite quiet, and some business, local business, must to close their business because nobody there. This is very suffer for Thailand. And this is true for transport on the road. When we have a long weekend or holiday, almost tourists at here. Many tourists at here for to visit and enjoy their activity and events for the tourists. But now it's very quiet. And for the bus stations, usually has many people visit at Pattaya, but now has only Billy. And this is atmosphere at train station at Pattaya, the popular city for the tourists, but now it's very quiet. So you will see the situation about tourism in Thailand. And so for the case study, you will see what happened in Thailand, and the government tried to inject money for robust of economy. We use the policy was called financial bazooka for fighting with financial disaster, right? But now the world facing a financial disaster from COVID-19. For Thailand, we use 1 billion for robust under 5T approach, targeted, timely, temporarily, Titanic, transparency. For recovery of economic activity, targeted is mean directly who was suffer and has a more impact for COVID. For Thailand, but now is has a SME and household was suffer from from the COVID-19. Timely is mean directly, fastly, suddenly for the target group because no money for consume. How to multiplier in the system? If we learn economics, we will know multiplier theory, right? How to help the exchange and increasing economic growth in the system, right? And temporary, it means short time. If we use financial bazooka, long time is not good because has problem about saving land and no saving in the government because we inject more money in the system. Titanic is mean much too big because this is not epidemic, it's pandemic. Worldwide in the world, every country has problem something like this. We don't know in the future what happen about economic of the world. How we can increasing our GDP of the world. But now you should be use a big bazooka for Titanic. We call it Titanic. Too big money put in or inject in the system. Transparency. Actually, when you use big bazooka and more money in the system, every process can be checked and very transparency and directly with this household, no corruption. For strategy, economic driving strategy in Thai, we use 5 reboot, rebuild, rebrand, rebound, and rebalance. Reboots, we try to stimulate tourism activity for domestic and build consumer trust for strategy of reboot. and rebuilds, adjusting to the new normal, increasing capability in the long-term economy, rebrand marketing communication with the new image, making Thailand as the world destination under health system as well. Rebound, rapidly international tourism, maybe next year. For this year, I'm not sure Thailand can welcome or open our country for international tourism. Rebalance, adjusting and sustaining a new balance. Government support package for robust economy. The government response has been robust, which support representing around 13% of GDP among the highest in the region, includes cash transfer, includes 5,000 baht for 6 months for informal workers, for give the cash for them helps money for consume, for food, for their life, and infrastructure project try to inject more money in the economic system. Financial support for companies, tax break, debt adjustment for companies and households, invest in trainings and digital technology to meet changing needs. For the last slide, I would like to tell we should be learned about this crisis. It's not only first time for human and the world. We facing many crises. If you learn the history, COVID crisis, coronavirus mutant virus. This phenomena is one of global warming caused by unbalance of human activity and economic growth. I hope post-COVID human will learn and help to protect the world. Started today by responsibility yourself by wearing of masks, social distancing, hand washing, reduce your consume, save natural, and please stay safe and healthy. Thank you very much today for enjoying my experience and hope everybody healthy. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for Assistant Professor Dr. Rudklaw Pampasit for the insightful information about COVID-19 economic impact case study of tourism in Thailand. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for stay tuned here. But we still have one agenda. This is the questions and answer sessions. For free to interact with our speakers today, please type your questions of inquiry box or chat box, and please write your name, where are you from, and to whom the questions is for. Well, yeah, the PowerPoint is already up. Well, we still have questions and answer sessions here, and there is a questions. We have already questions for Professor Dr. Rudklaw Pampasit. The question is it true at the time of this pandemic in Thailand would have opened up a tourism haven? Is there any issue to reopen the tourism place in Thailand? Professor Rudklaw, Assistant Professor Dr. Rudklaw, maybe you have an answer about these questions? Your microphone is still off.
For reopening in Thailand, I think vaccine is effects and is efficiencies and can protect populations. Maybe this year, maybe not sure that next year. I think it can open for international tourism. for the important to decision to open my country first is health is important. If the health system cannot support, maybe governments will concerned and realize about this point. And so, have any questions for Thai to against or?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, only that for the reopened for the tourisms.
I'm not sure about the questions. Maybe you can ask again.
Okay, the question is when actually the reopen of the place of tourists in Thailand, for example, Pattaya or etc.
Here, something like that on vaccine is effective.
Okay, yeah. Well, thank you, Professor Dr. Pampasit, for the answers, and we still have Associate Professor Hsien here. Actually, there is a comment from the audience. Congratulations to Taiwan. When health is first priority, then prosperity is follow. It's for the Associate Professor Hsien actually, on Taiwan. It's from the Hsien. Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we still wait for the questions and answers. For your questions.
I think there's a question for Professor Arif Budimanta in the very beginning, right?
Yes, but unfortunately for Professor Budimanta was already quit actually because of a meeting, but we still read actually about the questions. It's about what will finish based on your experience and how many years the economic will stronger in Taiwan. Maybe we can change these questions with Taiwan.
To me,
Is it okay, Professor, Associate Professor Wei?
I will say this is everybody's guess. So my guess is perhaps if you think about like the countries we mentioned today, you will perhaps wait until like 2022, right? So unless the the U.S. and European countries they really get the controls of the disease, there's no the demand of the tourism and also the regular demands for the consumer goods are not going back very quickly. So yeah, we just have to wait. And yeah.
Okay, we still have the positive suggestions actually for the next future. Well, Professor Wei, we still have one question more for you actually. This is from your
for the e-commerce.
Yes, it's about e-commerce. I will read for you. Seen on the slide presented earlier, e-commerce is also a stimulus booster policies and private consumption. So how can Taiwan make the stimulus policies for e-commerce? Thank you.
Okay. Well, thanks for the chance of clarification. Technically speaking, we do not really have a big package for the e-commerce, the stimulus kind of package for e-commerce, because they're actually doing very well. There's no need to help them, technically speaking. So I think that so the e-commerce part is more or less tied to the private consumption. We do see the shift to the private consumption to e-commerce, and that's very obvious. Yeah, the private consumption is in Taiwan being hit it is being hit. So I'm not saying that we don't have business shutting down. We have. But after the crisis being cooled down a little, you can see the surviving small business are actually doing pretty well. And that's actually especially true for the e-commerce, right? It's like they just continuously enjoy the benefits of the people buying stuff. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Associate Professor Wei, for the answer. It is very great answer. Well, the next question is for Professor Rudklaw Pampasit again. The question is, how is the tourist facility still open during the pandemic in Pattaya? Is there any facilities in Pattaya?
Sorry.
How is the tourist facility still open during the pandemic in Pattaya?
Oh, okay. For facility, it's open for support. Sorry. Can you open?
Yes, this is from Isnaini from Universitas Muhammadiyah Berau. The question is there any facilities
For
tourists in Pattaya?
For support with the domestic, but the domestic tourism in Thailand, they paranoid about spreading and new outbreaks, so it's very quiet for now. Situations, they still open the facility and tourists for support Thai.
Okay, yes, thank you very much, Assistant Professor Rudklaw Pampasit. And we still have one questions more. Hello, I'm Yoka to Professor Wei. Since the slide presented earlier, e-commerce is also stimulus. Oh, sorry, this is for the previous questions. Well, we still have one questions more. Thanks to the great resource, let me Purnamasari from South Kalimantan, Indonesia to ask all of the resources. The question is, which sector is the most urgent to be given a solution to the impact of this pandemic globally? And what is the right solution to grow the world economy in these recessions? And please share this webinar material. Oh yeah, thank you very much. Yes, maybe Professor Rudklaw Pampasit first to answer the questions about which sector is the most urgent to be given a solution to the impact of this pandemic globally.
Okay, for the solution, best solution for me, post-COVID, but now the human should be start to reduce consume and concerns more the naturals. And post-COVID, maybe the human should be reduce their activity and new normal, go into the era of new normal. New normal is mean you will stay home and no crowding, social distancing, and the behavior of human will change when we facing the COVID, because we know how to protect and try to avoid to crowding. After, post-COVID, that behavior still continue with humans, and they can build their natural, they consume and destroy the natural, and maybe can save the natural. Looking is a positive. For this period, make the natural restore themselves, restoring, and post-COVID, if we change our way of life and concern more about the world and sufficient economy is the best choice for the people, and something like that, and reduce the consume. It's the best choice for post-COVID, in my opinion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Dr. Rudklaw Pampasit. For the next questions, I will give to the another speakers here, Dr. Bayu Arif Possumah, still here. Mr. Bayu, could you hear my voice? The question is, what is the right solution to grow the world economy in these recessions? What is the right solution to grow the world economy in these recessions? Do you have any opinion about that?
Hello?
Yeah?
Hello?
Yeah?
Can you repeat your question?
The question is, what is the right solution to grow the world economy in this recession? Maybe you can say that in Malaysia, maybe there is such a solutions from the government to give the solution to grow the economy, the growth of the economy in Malaysia.
If we refer to the question, I think the better solution is what I shared before in my previous presentation, that the government policy should be cover three big areas. In the first place, we have to provide our community consumption. This is important point because how could we provide the supply side if we can solve the community consumption? So the government policy should be empowering first the people, and the second, from the empowering the people, we move to the property business. So if in the demand side, we cover the demand side. The demand side will cover the supply side, and when the demand meet the supply side, so we can stimulate and boost the economy. That's my simple answer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Bayu Arif Possumah, Ph.D. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have already shared the certificate link, so you can add the information about your data. You can fill on a chat box can read. Well, I think this is the end of the questions and answer sessions and discussions. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm Suti Milarisa as the moderators. I apologize for any mistake, and I would like to give the screens to the Master of Ceremony, Ibu Heni Mulyati Askom. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ibu Heni, the platform is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Surti. Thank you to all the speakers and the moderator. It's such a valuable and interesting discussion. Thank you to the participants. Thank you for joining the webinar, especially to the participants who stay until the end of the webinar. And I want to inform you that 90% of participants still stay until the last session. It means how much we need the knowledge and the information of the global current issue, that is the pandemic COVID-19, and its impact on many sectors, especially for today on business all around the world. We hope you can take benefit, that is the knowledge about COVID-19 pandemic impact on business, especially the comparison of its among impact among countries of Malaysia, Indonesia, Taiwan, and Thailand. Hopefully, we can meet in the following international webinar series with another current issue soon. I would like to remind the participant that the certificate will be sent via email after 7th day of the webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all the series of the webinar today. Thank you for joining us, and we apologize for any mistake. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
See you again, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Bayu, Professor Rudklaw,
Bapak Bayu, Professor Dr. Rudklaw, Pampasit, Associate Professor Hsien. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Yep, take care.
Happy nice day.
Dahlan siap menghadapi era new normal. Standarisasi protokol kesehatan telah diterapkan di lingkungan kampus. Antisipasi dan upaya dilakukan untuk menanggulangi COVID-19. Mulai dari sterilisasi ruangan secara rutin, penggunaan masker, face shield, dan hand sanitizer bagi seluruh karyawan, tenaga pendidik, dan mahasiswa ITB Ahmad Dahlan. Standarisasi juga diterapkan bagi mahasiswa baru saat memasuki area kampus. Seluruh tamu dan masyarakat kampus juga diharuskan untuk mematuhi protokol kesehatan yang telah diterapkan. Mulai dari penggunaan masker, melakukan pemeriksaan suhu badan, mencuci tangan dengan menggunakan sabun dan air mengalir, serta menjaga jarak atau physical distancing. Sebelum berinteraksi dengan resepsionis, mahasiswa baru juga diharuskan untuk kembali mencuci tangan menggunakan hand sanitizer. Bagi mahasiswa baru yang akan mendaftar di ITB Ahmad Dahlan, Anda juga akan diarahkan untuk melakukan pendaftaran secara online.
Seluruh jalur penerimaan mahasiswa baru, mulai dari jalur tes, jalur non-tes, dan jalur prestasi, dilakukan secara online dengan mengunjungi situs www.itb-ad.ac.id.
Atau Anda juga bisa melihat lengkap di brosur yang dibagikan oleh resepsionis. Sementara itu, bagi mahasiswa tingkat akhir, pelayanan prosedur kelulusan juga dilakukan secara online. Hal ini dilakukan untuk mengantisipasi penyebaran COVID-19 serta memutus mata rantai virus corona.
Penyidik itu nggak buat penyelidik, nggak punya kewenangan sebagai saksi. Ya, abang tadi.
This is the place for you to achieve your dreams. The vision of ITB Ahmad Dahlan is to be an excellent college on technology and business field, which competencies based on progressing Islamic values and also